Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, and I hope this video are a blessing unto you. In this video, I want to talk about MKUltra. When you type in MKUltra in YouTube, you get these type of results. A lot of conspiracy theories. Oh, here's a playlist over here. And most of the time, these conspiracy videos are about celebrities or politicians who are, as the conspiracy theorists claim, they are under MKUltra mind control. But most of these videos, if you would just scan through them, they don't give any perspective nor context to what they're talking about. And just being frank here, what I'm going to do now is talk about MKUltra, what it is, and put it in context for you. You can adjust the search results, but I'm not going to do all of that now. So let me close over here. Look, MKUltra. What does it stand for? MKUltra is a name used by the CIA for a program they've done in the 60s and 70s. It was, according to the CIA, that they kidnapped people, used drugs on them, and used torture on civilians in order to test how they could control people's minds. Now, in the 70s, when these things came to the light, the CIA denied it. Also, the media denied it. But suddenly, the CIA admitted because the evidence was overwhelming. And the public was enraged when people found out that the CIA was doing such stuff. And now, if you look for MKUltra, you can go to the library, and if your library covers international subjects, you may find a book about MKUltra because survivors have written about it. Some of the former CIA programmers that were involved wrote about it, and there are researchers, especially conspiracy theorists, that talk about the subject, and they've brought out books. Now, what I'm doing here, as I mentioned before, I'm going to give context to it. A lot of people think that MKUltra is an acronym for manufacturing killers, utilizing lethal tradecraft, requiring assassinations. Well, this sounds a bit made up to me. So I want to give the paranormal reference of MKUltra, because MKUltra is just is the code name that the CIA gave to what they were doing. But what they were doing was nothing new. What they were doing was just mind wizardry upon the population. I'm going to break down this name for you, okay? Separate the M from cult and from Ra. So you have the M here, cult and Ra. Cult means a cult in various languages, as you can see here, and it comes from Latin cultus. Okay? And in English you have the word cult for it. And Ra is the Egyptian sun god. Here you see sun disk over here. And the M in Latin means 1000, and 1000 in ancient Greek is Helios. And Helios is another name for Apollo, the Greek sun god, or Apollyon. And according to Revelation chapter 9 verse 11, he is the Antichrist. He's also called Alexander the Great by historians. And when the Greek Empire took over, the Egyptian gods did not disappear, but the Egyptian gods received a place in, say, Greek mythology. And the Roman mythology is really, I'm not saying exactly absolutely the same, but it's really when you look at it, it's the Greek mythology in a new pocket. New. So let me say like this. This Apollo is whom wizards are worshipping. Since the Greek Empire has been established, worldwide wizards worship this entity of care. This is the so-called white man that they are worshipping. And so the M refers to Apollo. Cult. When you put that in Pythagorean numerology, Pythagoras was an ancient Greek wizard, was also a mathematician and also someone that made maps. He had many professions, but he was a wizard also, and he studied in ancient Egypt and in ancient Babylon in the 6th century BC, and he started his own mystery school. And till this day, the mathematical formulas of Pythagoras are used in music. So most music you hear today, especially mainstream music, has Pythagorean magic in it. Now you know. That's why a lot of those songs become hits. A lot of people like those songs, even though the lyrics may be null and void, but because there's magic in it, the song keeps hanging in your brain. When you put cult in Pythagorean numerology, by the way, this Pythagorean numerology was later developed based on the teachings of Pythagoras. We also have the Chaldean numerology, which refers to Babylonian numerology. But when you put cult with a K in Pythagorean numerology, you get 10. And 10 is an X in Latin. And the X refers to Helios, the sun god. And 10, pronounced as letters, is Io. And Io is ancient Greek for sun, which is also the sun god Apollo. And Apollo is now worshipped above the Egyptian gods, even though they're still lingering around. So when it comes down to MKUltra, it's Helios, 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 X, X, X. And the X in numerology is also a 6. So you have 6, 6, 6. So I've broken that down for you now, okay? So what is this MKUltra about? What do they want to accomplish? First of all, is worship to this guy. That's what it is. And mind wizardry has been practiced in ancient Egypt. There they did it for the Egyptian gods. Now they're doing it, actually since 200 BC, they are doing that in worship of this guy over here. And what it comes down to is that you take a victim, you kidnap people, and you ritually sodomize them, you ritually scare them. That means in a mathematical repetition. And this builds a pattern, a traumatic pattern in the brain. So an individual disassociates. And once this happens, you now have multiple personalities. So this individual, after they've been subjected to this ritual abuse, you can release them back in the community. But during the ritual abuse, they have been programmed through the trauma to react to certain words. Okay, let me give an example. Let's say that they take a 7-year-old boy. They put the boy in a cage, and in the cage there is this cat that has been killed, but it's all open. The corpse is open and there's blood everywhere. This is going to be very traumatic to the child. And now they put that child in that cage, as the child has to face that. The mind cannot handle this. So the mind disassociates. And let's say that they also scream against the child often, out of the blue. And then the child is released. The child runs outside and the child sees parents coming. Often parents are also involved. And the child thinks, whoa, finally I'm safe. But then the parent comes and the parent smacks the child. Now there's another trauma. So now there's another layer of trauma developing in the brain of the child. So while this is all happening, they now repeat certain words and they associate those words with certain outcomes. That's how the victim is programmed. That child now is in a community, but let's say that they programmed that child that anytime that child hears the words, let me say apple, the child becomes violent and begins to fight. Because they put apples over there when the child was hungry, and when the child reached to the apples, they smacked him. So the child associates apples with violence. So anytime the child sees an apple, the brain is triggered and the individual feels danger and they react to that danger. They become aggressive. So that's how they develop multiple personalities. Why are they doing this? That's how you develop what they would call an organic robotoid kind of entity. Let me rephrase it better. They're not an organic robotoid, but they become like an organic robotoid. It means that they can't operate naturally as humans anymore because they're so traumatized and broken down. So now they need someone that is their overseer. They need a handler to handle them. Because remember, those MKUltra victims, they cannot function properly in the community. They can't. They need to have someone that manages them. And the manager is the one that is assigned to that individual to make sure that individual does what the wizards want. For example, they took that 7-year-old boy. From age 7 till 10, they subjected the boy every weekend to MKUltra. When the boy is a teenager, 16 years old, the handler can trigger the guy with the use of pictures to assault certain women. So indeed, now in the community, on the news, you will hear that there is a serial rapist out there. And for real, there are women that have been sexually assaulted. So now people are frightened. People are looking for who is the guy, who's doing this. And because people are in unrest, they want answers. And when the time is ripe, the handler will forsake the MKUltra victim by either handing him over to the police himself or by reporting to the police that he's about to commit a crime. And then they capture the guy. And on TV you see an 18-year-old guy, his eyes are like dead, like zombie eyes, and he doesn't respond really to what people are doing. And what happens now is that people that watch the news think, whoa, they captured the monster, finally. What has happened? The wizards wanted to keep the population in the negative. So the wizards caused a dysfunction in the community because they knew that it will stress out the people. Because when people are stressed out, they are in fear. And when you are in fear, you can't think straight. You can't even feel naturally. So you can't function well when you are in fear. So the wizards caused fear in the community by using a trauma victim to haunt the community. Now people now see the trauma victim that the police has caught, and they are happy. And what happens now? All attention goes to the trauma victim, who looks kind of zombie-like, and people now feel relieved. And while people feel relieved, their ego is built up. So now they're stuck in pride, and they think now they have a right to think bad about that serial rapist or that serial killer or that terrorists that wanted to blow up a building. And here's the thing. They are not aware they've been played. They've been played by the wizards to keep them in the negative, to prevent them from seeking deliverance, because that's what MKUltra comes down to. It's mind wizardry upon a population to keep people in the negative, because demons need people to be in the negative in order to feed off of people, so that they can be operative in the earth realm, I mean. So when you look at the news and here they captured some serial killer, or there was this terrorist that has attacked people, or a terrorist that went into a car and drove into a crowd of people. I'm not saying fake news does not exist, okay? But there are times those incidents are real. There are times. But what they report about those incidents is not real. Capture that. There's an incident that happened, and now there's a report about that incident. Now the report may not be true. The report may contain a lot of BS in it, but there is something that happened. And the report is designed to cause you to feel relieved and frightened at the same time. Relieved because they captured the guy, but frightened because you think, whoa, there's such people out there. But you're not aware of that this is a trauma victim. Someone that can't think straight, someone that can't help themselves. And that's how they keep the population divided. Because others who look a bit deeper will see that, hold on a minute, this individual can't help himself or herself. But others say, no, 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 you telling me to feel pity for that monster? It causes division. It causes people to become hard-headed. So that's really what MKUltra is all about. There's really not much to it. MKUltra has been used by almost all empires in human history. One recent example of that was Nazi Germany. They used MKUltra. And this MKUltra collectively on the population led to the mass killings of Jews, gypsies, homosexuals, and many other people. Normally, MKUltra is practiced in such a way that the violence is contained. But with Nazi Germany, it got out of hand. And come in what they call socialist China, under Mao Zedong, they also use MKUltra. And MKUltra is really designed to distract people. And in ancient times, they used to do it locally on multiple places, because you didn't have TV, you didn't have radio, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have smartphones, you didn't even have photography. So they needed to do things on a local scale, close to people, for it to affect them. Today, they can use the media. And through social media, things go viral very quickly. An incident can happen today in Japan, and tomorrow, all the way in Peru, they know about it. Well, if you go to like 100 years ago, or let's say 200 years ago, it would take maybe a year or two for news that happened somewhere in Japan to reach Peru. So when you hear people talk about MKUltra, it's mind wizardry to keep a population in a negative frequency. Because it's in that negative frequency that demons can feed off of people. And it's in this negative frequency that people comply with the world. In this negative frequency, you can't think straight. You can be operative in what they call society. You have your job, you go to your work, you look well before you cross the road, so you can be functional in society, but you are dysfunctional because you are on the fear frequency. And you're not aware you are on the fear frequency because everyone around you is on the same frequency. Those that are not on the same frequency, you become frightened of them. Why is this? Because worldly people are relief-centered. as I mentioned before. And because worldly people are relief-centered, they are seeking relief above all. To some, relief is their boyfriend, girlfriend. To others, it's smoking weed all day long. But for the majority, it's just having their place in what they call society, so that they will avoid violence, avoid harm, and be in a relieved comfort zone. That's what world people want, a relieved comfort zone. Relief from violence, from discomfort. So, when a threat appears, people won't hold on to that comfort zone, and people become hostile, people lose their minds. This is what MKUltra is assigned to do. It's meant to cause people to be intoxicated so that people will become more desperate for relief. And then the same programmers come with the relief, and people will grab that relief, take a hold of it, and they'll think it's by their own free will. So-called free will. It's not. But I won't go into free will in this video now, but just understand this. Mind wizardry upon the population has been done throughout the ages. Many people hear the name CIA and they lose perspective. They think it's all something from the CIA, and they don't realize it's a common thing in the world. And it works. It works to keep people at ease. Because worldly people, when their comfort zone is threatened, they do crazy stuff. They get out of hand. That's how worldly people are. So those that rule the world, those wizards, they, from time to time, themselves cause intoxication to bring relief, to keep people going. Now, I'm not going to defend that, but I understand why they're doing it. Because apart from MKUltra, apart from mind wizardry, worldly people in themselves have unrest. And it's to be relieved from this unrest. This unrest is the result of them being born in a fallen state because they're not born again. They're lost. And because they're lost, they have this unrest they want to get rid of. This inner emptiness. And the way world people do this is by gathering in homogeneous groups, by excluding those that don't reflect the common norm, and that's how they maintain the relief. That's how the world operates. But people tend to become very violent and out of hand in this process. So then you have the overlords that make sure there's a mental equilibrium in a territory to get everyone on the same page. Well, and the world wants this because the world wants order. What I mean with order is relief. So the demand for relief comes from worldly people because they don't trust the Most High. And the demons, through the wizards and the handlers that cooperate with the wizards, they provide the relief. So that's why there are a lot of people that go missing, children that go missing. That's why you have pedophile rings. Those pedophile rings are agents below handlers that cause dysfunction to random children. Why? Because when you have dysfunctional people around in society, people tend to resist dysfunctional people. And that's how you keep people in a duality, by having here and there people that are dysfunctional. And people are dysfunctional that are resisted by community, they tend to become worse. And when things get out of hand, people want relief, finally. And then the handlers come in and take care of it. The relief is what worldly people want, is what they're holding on to. That's their idolatry, because they don't want to trust the Most High. So, those that rule the world, they provide it for them. So, it isn't just wizards doing this, and it's very horrible what they're doing. It is horrible what they're doing, but where does the demand come from? The demand comes from worldly people. Because they are the ones willing the relief. Well, I hope this message has informed you about MKUltra. Please don't go deep into numerology and all of that. I've used it to explain to you what MKUltra is. And please don't go deep into all those videos on YouTube or on Dailymotion about MKUltra, because a lot of those people, they don't know what they're talking about. They know facts, but they don't know what they're talking about because they don't have any perspective. Many of them don't even know that it's a spiritual, let's say a paranormal operation. And you have agents appointed by handlers themselves who also make videos about MKUltra to spread this information. And about celebrities, I dare to say all celebrities are under MKUltra. And here's the thing, most of the human population is under MKUltra at this moment. And they're not even aware of it. They are normal. Because they have a husband and a wife, a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or boyfriend or girlfriend, depends upon the sex. Because they have a job and they're not in jail and they are respectful and people leave them alone, they don't experience violence because they have this relieved comfort zone. They think they're all right. They're not. They're not all right, but they don't notice it. Let me see how long this video has become. I don't want to make it too long. Oh, almost a half hour. As you can see here, the Nazis were also deeply involved in MKUltra. And before I close, I want to mention one more thing. MKUltra, when someone has been subjected to MKUltra directly, as for example they were raped when they were a baby or as a small kid, or they were beaten repeatedly, ritually, such an individual, when they grow older, they can change. They can be delivered. Okay, they're not hopeless cases. But here's the thing: a lot of people, unfortunately, that were subjected to MKUltra, they are drawn to the dark side and they embrace the dark side. That's the sad part, that some of them become wicked in an agreement with Satan, unfortunately. But it happens that people get delivered and even become born again. Because it doesn't matter how much trauma you put on the brain. The brain is designed in such a way that no matter how traumatically you program it, it will always detox itself. It may take years, but the brain will begin to detox itself, and the individual who was subjected to all that traumatic programming will begin to realize, hold on a minute, something doesn't add up here. And by the way, MKUltra focus on the brains of people, how to alter the chemicals in someone's brain by causing fear, visually through the media or physically in real life. Because when people are terrified, cortisol is released in the body, stress hormones are released too. That's the fight and flight response. But if this fight or flight response takes too long, it's the same as when you're drugging someone. It's the same as if you take a pill, put in someone's drink, and they're drinking it without being aware of it. So this fear-based programming, it's like drugging an individual. It's witchcraft. And well, that's what happens. It was only focused on the physical. And it's effective. But the human being isn't just a physical being. The human being is a spirit being with a soul living in a body. So even if the body is completely messed up due to traumatic programming, the individual, him or herself, they have a soul, and the soul will resist. That's why MKUltra victims, after a while, they collapse. You can have a celebrity that is a so-called great singer, and suddenly the celebrity begins to act out. And people think, what happened to him or her? And look at this. When you hear on the news that there's a guy that suddenly took off all his clothes and began to run around in the city, such things happen here in the Netherlands, people tend to think, huh? Who in the right mind will take off all the clothes and run around in cold weather? And then the police comes, they do their job, they arrest the individual, and they're brought to a mental institution to get help. What happened? Probably, I'm not saying This is the case in all cases, but probably that was an MKUltra victim that was used, and now the handler abandons the victim. That's why you have that there are times that people just lose it and pick up a knife and begin to stab people, or they pick up a gun and begin to shoot random at people. Those are incidents where the MKUltra programming collapses. And now all that stress and tension comes up again, and the individual is not capable of handling it, and it goes wrong. But this is intended by the handlers and by the wizards. Why? Because this will cause fear in the community, and that's what's all about, to cause fear, to intoxicate people with fear so that they will seek relief. Intoxication followed by relief. That is how it goes. That's the yin-yang they're enforcing on the population. And the world's population falls for it every time because they are relief-centered and they don't want deliverance. They don't want to follow the Most High. They don't want to be free. So eventually, is the world's population cooperating with it, whether they are aware of it or not? Well, you are aware of it now. Worship the Most High. Don't lose yourself in these subjects. And remember, despite all these things are happening, Christ is Lord. So agree with him and be at peace.